It's 2013 and gaming is better than ever. With the launch of GTA 5, The Last of Us and Black Flag, it looked like we have entered the golden age of gaming. Technology was no longer holding us back, and the future looked promising.
16 times the detail.
Everything was bigger and better than ever, and our hopes were sky high for one of the most anticipated games of 2013, Rome 2 Total War. Do you remember what you did when Rome 2 launched? Well, I do. That was the year that I finally put my pirate hat down for good.
You serious?
So no more mining crypto with every game I download. Finally, a game was about to be released that was worth its price. The $60 price tag was high, but I was willing to dish out this money if it meant that I would play it for thousands of hours like I did with the previous Total War games. Little did I know that the backstab I got on launch day would be felt even 10 years later. You see, dear viewer, that us, the Total War fans, have been waiting for a sequel for Rome 1 since forever.
Well, we're waiting.
Rome 1 was the gold standard of Total War games, but it has aged poorly compared to Medieval 2 and Shogun 2. All we wanted was Rome 1 in the style of Medieval 2, but bigger and better. And Sega did just that. They made us a promise that Rome 2 will be bigger and better than any other Total War game that we have ever seen.
So in Rome 2, we have invested more resources into improving the battlefield AI than I think we have in any Total War game to date.
The hype train was in full motion. Every Total War fan was imagining a Kingdom of Heaven level of scale and fidelity. Surely with the latest advances in technology, the sky was the limit what this new Total War game should be able to achieve. But even as the trailers were being published, something fell off. Why are the cities so big? What happened to all the buildings? And most importantly, why doesn't Rome have a port? All the red flags were there from the start, but we all chose to ignore them. Sega, seeing all the hype around their new release, pushed pre-orders like a crack whore working for their next fix. But how do you convince people to pre-order? Surely they're not going to put any extra work for more content that is actually worth pre-ordering. No. Then they had a genius idea.
I may not have a brain, gentlemen, but I have an idea.
Let's cut some content out of the game and sell it as a pre-order bonus. And then make this content Day 1 DLC. This way, if you're not pre-ordering, you will be wasting money.
Are you not entertained? Is this not why you are here?
CA, the cheeky little bastards, used the poll to see which nation would most players want to play on Day 1. And they all voted Sparta! So naturally, CA cut Sparta and 2 more nations out of the game and made it the Greek Culture Pack as a pre-order bonus. You see, dear viewer, that Sega knew how shit the game actually was. But if they convinced people to pre-order, it didn't really matter if the game was shit or not. Because this was the golden age of publishers when refunds were virtually impossible. Their strategy was simple: work on a highly anticipated game, spend most of the game's budget on marketing, get as many pre-orders as possible, and when the game inevitably launches as a broken mess, just sell them another game that promises it fixes all the issues. Genius. And it worked. Because they have done the same thing when Empire released in a broken state, and then sold the fixed version as a brand new game. It's September the 3rd, Tuesday. Seems an odd day to launch one of the most anticipated games of 2013. Usually these games are launched on a Friday, so gamers can enjoy them throughout the weekend. In hindsight, they probably wanted gamers to play as little of the game as possible before they figured out that they got scammed. The gaming journalists did what they do best. And the gamers, well, they were not happy. Not a problem. CA, in their infinite wisdom, made every rebel settlement a unique faction. Sounds good on paper, but now the number of factions that needed to be processed during the Anthem ballooned from 27 to 117. Before that, every rebel settlement was just one faction. The rebels. It's not like these rebel factions would do anything. They just sat there and you had to watch them every time just looking at you awkwardly like they were lost or something. Game crashing on launch? Not a problem. Just reinstall the game. If that doesn't work, then wait for CA to patch it. The game is running at 15 FPS? Not a problem. Just buy a new PC. Sure, you could run Shogun 2 at max settings without a problem. But Rome 2? Well, no. If it looks so bad, then why is it running even worse? The AI is more A than I. While every Total War game had its fair share of AI-related problems, but Rome seemed different. It was special. Its AI was absent or brain-dead at best. So CA tried to do its best to hide its lobotomized AI, and they came up with a genius idea. Flags. If the AI can't make the basic tactical movements on the battlefield and is incompetent at best, then let's just turn the tactical battles into capture the flag. Add 30-second timer on it and there you go. We have advanced AI, or so they might have thought. But it turns out that their AI doesn't care that it's on a battlefield. It only cares about the flags, and it will do anything to capture them, even if that means to try and run right through the enemies. It's like when they scripted the AI, they just added one line, walk forward, and realized that they would just walk right off the map. So they added a rally point where the AI should go. Genius move. But even if somehow you managed to get the game to actually work, there were the bugs. Oh, the bugs. Then the questions came. Was the cartridge trailer all a lie? Yes, it definitely was. Who made this game? Well, it turns out that the interns made it. CA, in their infinite wisdom, led the interns and some freelancers to make not only their new game, but the new Warscape engine as well. And this spaghetti code of an engine still plagues modern Total War games to this day. People were looking for someone to blame the failure of Rome 2, because surely CA was not at fault on how the game turned out. They searched around the internet and they found this guy. And they piled on him like it's Black Friday, blaming him for every shortcoming that Rome 2 had. CA, as the opportunistic vultures they are, literally threw this guy under the bus. 10 years later, this guy would finally be able to tell his side of the story. And it turns out that CA is so badly managed that they make Bethesda look competent. And it wasn't the first time that CA blamed its own devs, as they blamed the AI director when Empire also launched. The backlash for the buggy state of the game was so strong that CA had to issue an apology, and then invited all of their fans to join the discussion on their forum. No need to vent on YouTube or Steam. Come and post all your frustrations on our forum, where nobody will ever see it. The fans were pissed, but there was nothing they could have done. Refunds were not an option for most of them, and all they could do is to wait for future patches. CA did start patching the game, but no amount of patches could be able to fix the game as it was fundamentally broken. 6 months after the disastrous launch of the game, Steam Workshop was integrated. Mods, oh sweet mods, were on the horizon. Surely modders would be able to fix the broken state of the game, but they couldn't. They could only build upon the spaghetti code. The sad truth is that if you don't like the base game, the mods won't make this shit of a game enjoyable. It took 1 more year to get the game into a somewhat playable state, and some people actually liked it. You see, dear viewer, that Rome 2, despite its broken state, was a massive success, as it has reached a whole new audience that has never played a Total War game in their life. Their numbers were big and their expectations were low, a perfect customer for CA. So they did what every business does: ignore their old fans and start milking their newfound golden goose. But first, they needed to get rid of anybody who complained about the new direction of the Total War games. So they banned anybody on the forum who criticized them. Then they took a chapter out right from politics. Divide and conquer. Just pitch the two fan bases against each other and paint CA as the one who is trying to appease both of them. Genius idea. Over the years, there has been a rise of useful idiots who would defend CA as long as it means that they were the ones that got first access to the latest Total War game. CA did it. No more people criticizing their games. Their newfound fanbase would gobble up every slop they made. The future looked promising. In fact, they were so confident that their new Total War fans would buy anything that they started to heavily invest millions into a hero shooter. Why fix the broken engine? Why add more content when these people would buy the latest Total War no matter what? With the launch of the Warhammer games, CA went further away from what Total War actually was. It looked like a Heroes of Might and Magic game than an actual Total War game. But that didn't matter, as it sold well, and the bugs, glitches, or the missing content will all be fixed in Warhammer 2. And once again it paid off, selling people a broken game and selling them the fixed version as a brand new game was CA's business strategy. But they wanted more. They knew they had a massive fanbase that they have ignored for a long time, and it was about time to capitalize on them. So they threw a bone to the old Total War fans and called it Thrones of Britannia, and it flopped. Because CA forgot that these people have played the older and much better Total War games that came before, and they won't fall for a bland Rome 2 reskin. In the eyes of these fans, Rome 2 and the engine was everything they hated about the new Total War games. It wasn't about history versus fantasy, as the biggest and most popular mod for Medieval 2 was a fantasy mod. And CA said, fuck 'em. We will convert the Warhammer fans to like our historical games. And Three Kingdoms launched to an okay reception. But there was a problem. People were not buying all the cut content, also known as DLC. So they quickly stopped supporting the game. Then came Troy, to an abysmal reception. Same happened to Warhammer 3 and Pharaoh as well. CA was pumping out one flop after another, and the more desperate they were getting, the more DLCs they would try to sell. In just 15 years, we got from CA selling a complete game to selling bare bones games, Blood and Gore as DLC, Factions as DLC, and the Lords as DLC. And with all their innovations on how to nickel and dime their fans, they were starting to struggle. Most of their games in the past years flopped, except Warhammer 3, and that was not enough. They dug themselves into a hole. The OG Total War fans didn't care about the new Total War games. And the new Total War fans were burned out. Because with every new release, they had to fork out hundreds of dollars just to get a complete game. Plus, why should they put up with the new bugs and piss-poor performance of the latest Total War games, when most of these games are a reskin at best? According to rumors, CA is working on Warhammer 40k, and it has to be a home run. But CA isn't that confident. It will cost them a lot of money in licensing and in production, and if it flops, it could be the end of CA as we know it. If it will be just another Warhammer reskin with the same mechanics, piss-poor performance, countless bugs, and cut content sold as DLC, then it might flop. Until Warhammer 40k launches, they need to release another game. The good news is that they have a lot of options. Medieval 3, Empire 2, and even Shogun 3 could be their next big game. Medieval 3 is probably the next game on their list. But the sad truth is that us, the OG Total War fans, have no interest in Medieval 3 if it means that they will use the Rome 2 engine. It will be a hard pass for me at least. On the other hand, if they remake the Medieval 2 engine, update it, make it bigger and better, then yes, it would be an easy sell. We have all seen how incompetent and predatory CA is, and we have zero trust in them when it comes to delivering an actual game that isn't broken on launch and cut to pieces to sell as DLC. So here we are, more than 10 years later, and I'm still pissed about it. I have about 30 hours in Rome 2, and I spent all of it trying to get the game to work. I even tried some mods, but I wish these mods would be made for another game. So this is why CA and Sega still owe me $60. But wait, there is more. Sega's subscription service. Turns out that Sega is also innovating when it comes to nickel and diming their own players. And we might see in the future a full-on subscription service for Total War games. Oh, what a joyful day that will be. Imagine Medieval 3 being cut to pieces and sold as a subscription service.